Hi, I'm Luann with Rockin Book Reviews, and I'm so happy to be here today with Traci Hunter Abramson. Uh, Years ago, my daughters got me hooked on certain authors that they said were really super good, but I hadn't been reading fiction for many years, so I was hesitant. But once I started reading Traci's book, I was hooked. You're a fantastic writer.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say.
And of course your Saint Squad is extremely popular.
A lot of people do like them, yes.
Okay, tell us a little bit about yourself. When you were growing up, how many siblings, and so forth?
Well, I'm from Arizona originally. I was born and raised in Arizona until I left for BYU. And then I started out with one sister, then I inherited two more stepsisters when I was 16, and have since inherited three more stepsisters and another stepbrother. So
Wow.
For now, 8 is enough.
That is fantastic. Okay, but you went to Venezuela at one part. When was that, and how did that happen?
Basically, I was 17. And my mom happened to come across somebody who said back then, if you did a study abroad, student exchange, one person would go to a different country, and then that would give them an opportunity to send a child of their own, but this person didn't want to send anybody. They didn't have any kids interested, and so I got the chance to go, and my mom was like, Traci would love this. And so I ended up living in Caracas during the week, and a little town called Higuerote during the weekend, and it was great. It gave me a wonderful understanding of different cultures, and that's one of the reasons why I did a lot of my early writing based on Latin America, is because I understood the culture so much. And of course, growing up in Arizona, that's pretty common as well, to be around, people.
Now they speak Spanish there, right? Correct?
That is correct, yes.
And did you know the language?
I knew some. I did study some there, and it was great because I learned enough to be conversationally fluent, and that was very valuable. That's actually one of the reasons why I was attracted to the CIA when they were recruiting.
Wow, that is fantastic. Okay, and so you got hooked up with the CIA at that time?
No, actually, believe it or not, I was at BYU. I was coming out of their administration building, and the gentleman who happened to be recruiting that year was my husband's bishop from his home ward. And so he just said, why aren't you on my list? And I was like, they were looking for accountants. And I said, I'm not an accountant. That's counting pennies. I like things in thousands. And but I took the interview, and I ended up being one of the 2 people they took that year.
So you weren't like an agent?
I was not an agent. I was a support role. So which is actually better for what I do, because agents deal with just a little tiny piece of the pie, and I was more oversight. So all of my jobs I did where I was dealing with the entire agency and everything they did, including 2 years that I was a liaison officer for finance. And so basically it was during the first Gulf War. And so I was dealing with agencies from literally every intelligence agency in the country.
Wow.
So I understand what they do. And that's why it's easier for me to write FBI, and I can do DIA and NSA and things like that, because I used to work with them.
Wow. So, but in working in that capacity, I'm sure you had a lot of interaction with a lot of the, assignments they had.
Oh yeah. In fact, you actually learn more in my position. The CIA still has to clear all of my manuscripts that have to do with intelligence. And, you would think that after all this time, it wouldn't be an issue, but they still do on occasion redact something that I write, because I erroneously think that something is either open, or I stumble onto something that maybe I didn't realize. It didn't exist at the time I was working there, but I just put 2 and 2 together to think, oh, well, this would be a great idea. And I maybe came up with an idea that they already have and don't necessarily want out in the public.
So certainly you had to go through all the paperwork to be certified as no background check. I mean, the background check with everything.
Yeah, my background check and everything, from the time I started the process to get in with the agency, it was 10 months before all of my clearances were
I was
intact.
going to say, I'm sure you had to have top secret clearance.
I was at a top secret clearance, yes.
Okay. So many of your books have been awarded the Whitney Award, and you've won first place. And tell us about which books of that was that? Okay, I gotta get this. Porter, edit this. Okay. I got my tongue twisted there. So tell us about the book that won first place.
I've actually won 3 times, which still is stunning to me, but
Wow.
Cover and Failsafe, and I believe, I'm trying to think, Code Word was the other one. Code Word is
those are great. Yeah, I remember.
So yeah, I mean, it was, honestly, I used to joke about the first several years that I was nominated. There was no pressure because I don't really fit a category well. I write really more thriller than suspense. I'm not really a mystery. I'm really more suspense than thriller.
Right.
And I also have a romantic element. So I'm not romance, I'm not mystery, but I kind of fall into that mystery suspense. So I would go in every year like, oh, I'm not going to win. And I remember like Josie Kilpack's like, well, why would you say that? I said, oh, no, I'm not like trying to bash on myself. I said, I really appreciate that readers, nominate me and everything, but I said, oh, there are so many talented writers and I don't really fit the category. So, I'm good. I can just go. And sure enough, the first time I won, I had my shoes off under the table and I stood up when I heard my name and then I realized I have no shoes on and I sat down and everyone's like, did she pass out? And they're like, oh, no, she's putting her shoes on. So the next time I won, of course, I'm convinced I'm not winning. Shoes are off under the table again. And I went and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wear sandals that have straps. There's no way I'm going to make everyone wait for me to put my shoes back on. So I actually accepted the barefoot. So the third time I did get my shoes back on in time, but yeah, I'm from Arizona. Like shoes are an optional.
Right.
I don't wear those a lot.
So, yeah, so it's not like the Oscars where you have any inkling beforehand that you're going to win.
No, I mean, especially like I said, there's so much talent in the LDS writing community
Yes.
that I've never walked in thinking, oh, I've got this. Usually I have an idea of like maybe who the top couple that I think might win, but I mean, Stephanie Black, bless her heart, she was the Whitney Award president the first year I won, and she's like, Traci, you should really consider keeping your shoes on, because she knew that I was prone to not wearing them, and I should have taken a hint. I can read people really well on some things, but when it comes to me, I'm just clueless. So.
Well, I think it's fantastic. Your books are addictive, though. I'll have to tell you. Once you get started, you just can't wait until the next one comes.
Well, that's good to know. I'm glad that people are. It's a good addiction. We're going to call it a good addiction.
Yeah, I'm not alone. All my daughters and a lot of our friends read them, and they're all the same. They're very addicted. We've read several of them many times. So.
This is good. This is good.
Okay. For a while, you ventured away from your espionage books. Are you going to be doing any more under the sports-related field?
I probably will. I have another idea for a baseball one. I actually have a short that's coming out. It's in an anthology that'll come out next month with supporting Rob Wells for his medical bills. This actually with ballet.
So will it be a sequel to your last one?
No, this one actually is, it's a precursor for one that's actually, I have not yet published yet. I still need to, it's the first book I ever wrote and I have not rewritten it to where I'm happy with it yet. But it's actually an ice skating book. And then I have, like I said, I think I have a couple more ideas for swimming, some baseball, football of all things. I mean, I just love sports, so that's pretty comfortable for me. But a lot of times,
about swimming?
Oh yeah. It's a big one for me.
You teach swimming, correct?
What?
You teach swimming, don't you?
I've been coaching high school swimming for 23 years.
23. Wow.
So that's been, I think 20, yeah, I think I'm going to 23. So
That's got to be challenging.
it's great. I mean, one thing that really benefits me is that I probably feel like I'm more in touch with people who are younger, still in that younger generation. So when I go to write, it doesn't feel like my characters feel more realistic to me in the age where
Right.
a lot of times it's harder. You get a little bit older and even if you have teenagers of your own, it's not the same as living it. And I'm seeing these kids living the different challenges of today. So it makes it a little bit easier to bring things in and make things more relevant. So
I love working with teenagers, but like you said, it's different.
yes, it is.
Because and which is impressive because your books are clean. And the language these days isn't exactly clean among the teenagers.
Ironically, at my swim practices, it is.
Really?
Yes, because they know that that's the standard. And the person I coach with now and the person I coached with the last 12 years prior, all of them had that same standard. You put an expectation out there and say, this is what the rules are. And people are very good about rising to that expectation when they're given. And, but they also know that they want to be respected and we will respect them in return. So
I think that's fantastic. Yeah, because when of course they don't use it in the classroom, but when in the halls, sometimes you can hear some pretty.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the truth is, the reason I'm a published author is because I found out there was a big gap in that exact area, that there were so many people looking for clean fiction, especially that bridge between what's now called new adult, but it didn't exist when I started. And I just saw that gap and I was like, I want something clean out there for the teenagers I'm working with. And I've been trying to fill that gap ever since.
I've been accused of being naive and out of it because that's just the way people talk these days, and I said not people I associate with a lot. So,
exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot of us, and there's a lot of people that even aren't Christian that don't appreciate the bad language and the literary. I think it's gone on tune. I mean, downhill because in the past, the literary, they used to make the point without actually using the language.
Right.
And I think it's a literary talent when you can do that.
Well, thank you. Once you get used to doing it and know how to work the system, you really don't, I've never missed it because I don't read it myself. And so you just, and I've had some wonderful people to help me, critique my writing to make sure that, they'll help me find fresh ways to do things.
Okay. So what are your top 10 goals to accomplish in the next 10 years?
Oh my gosh, that's a really hard one. Probably to have a clean desk. That is one of my top goals. My husband would be thrilled if it actually happened. It happens about once every year or two. So I'm hoping in the next 10 years,
you and me too.
will occur. I think probably just like most people, my top goal is really just for my children and my husband to be happy and following the path that the Lord wants them on and, find out who they are. So, I mean, my husband's a couple years from retirement, so we'll be looking at him potentially looking in careers at the same time. I've got a couple of my kids doing the same thing. So,
so do you have like dreams you want to do, like travel or whatever?
Travel's a big one for me. Actually, this year, my mom wants to go to Italy, so that's on her bucket list. So we're going to do that. I've always wanted to go to Prague, and so I'm going to do that as well. I have a trip planned to Helsinki with some girlfriends that I'm very much looking forward to, and I'm sending a daughter to Paris in the fall, so I'll pop in and see her before I come back. But I think that's one of the things I would love. I mean, when I look at a 10-year span, I'd love to get all of my story ideas actually onto paper, but the last time I counted it, there were 27 of them. So that might push it a little bit, but maybe, if I work hard, I might get all of them down. I'll have 27 new ones by then, but Yeah, I've had people suggest that they might have story ideas that for me. Please no, please just. I mean,
You got enough.
when people, it's hysterical because when people email me, which is so kind, and when people who read my books email me and ask me questions and stuff, they'll be like, have you thought about a story about this person? I was like, oh yeah, that's on the list. Like the readers are very astute and they are very much aware of what is coming from me. It's just a matter of what order are things coming. But yeah, there's a lot of ideas out there. So I'd love to have that happen. And
What inspired you to come up with the Saint Squad? Those are so fun.
Thank you. I think a lot of it just came from, I can't even remember what started it. It was probably some hostage situation that came to mind, and I was like, this would just be an interesting concept. And I'm a true discovery writer. When I start writing, I don't know what's going to happen. And for the first Saint Squad book, Free Fall, I got to halfway through and I said, oh my gosh, the book is over. What do I do? I'm only 100 pages in. And then I had to sit for a week or so. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I could do this. And then the book continued. And then I fell in love with the characters. And I was like, oh, maybe I could do something like, the second Saint Squad came from the Virginia Tech shooting because, I live in Virginia and that was a terrifying day. Literally, I saw people running out into their cars to go drive down there to see if their kids had survived. And, it was traumatic, but I think one of the reasons I wanted to write that was because anytime, we went through this shooting, shootings recently, that when we go through that, people need to mourn, and a lot of times they're looking for a connection and feel like we can't mourn unless we knew somebody personally, but it's not true. I mean, it's still an emotional impact. It affected our society. It affects who we are and things like that. So, a lot of my characters will have backgrounds from things like, like the Kansas City bombing many years ago, or I'm sorry, I can't remember where it was. It wasn't Kansas City. It might have been Oklahoma City. But I was in the CIA at that time. Yeah, Oklahoma. And I remember standing in the CIA in my office and looking at the video feed with dozens of co-workers, just like, what did we not do right? What could we have done better? And so, having gone through that and being on the other side of the curtain of seeing people who feel such guilt when something isn't prevented. I just wanted to create characters that have that emotion and, seeing how many, I, like I said, not only feeling it myself, but also seeing so many of my friends go through that. And also, during the first Gulf War, I did have enough associations with the military to really gain a huge appreciation. I live in an area where I feel very safe at church. There's a lot of people who are military, ex-military, Secret Service, FBI, all those sorts of folks. And, they're very dedicated to making sure that people stay safe.
So how much longer do you think you'll continue with Saint Squad in your writing?
Every time I think I came to an end, I get everyone's afraid of it happening, and I get a bunch of emails saying, please no, don't stop. And so I have at least a few more ideas. There's actually, people who read Tripwire will get the gist of this, but there's probably, I think it's going to probably be called Shadow Squad, but there's probably going to be a new squad created coming out of the Saint Squad, or at least parallel to them. So that'll give me a chance to,
that'll be good.
Keep the Navy SEAL kind of ideas going, but maybe not have quite so many characters where it gets confusing. So.
Well, whoops. All right, I'm not doing this right. There. Your new book, Tripwire, it was so good. It was just as exciting. I can't say which one is the best, though, because your books are so good.
Well, thank you. And I'm quite jealous. I don't have my copy of Tripwire yet. So I saw once in person when I did a signing in Arizona, and bought a couple copies, and my family stole them. And I have to get my own when I come to Utah next week.
Traci, I understand you got a really awesome offer for your new book, Tripwire.
That's right. They're going to be doing a giveaway. It's going to be a free print copy if you were US or Canada, and I believe they'll have a option for a ebook for international winners.
That'll be awesome, and we'll run that for about 2 weeks. Is that all right?
Sounds great.
Okay. So, and everybody, you will love it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Traci. I appreciate so much. Is there any last thing you'd like to make final remarks?
Well, just thank you to all the readers who keep supporting me. I'm so appreciative that I get to do what I do, that you guys let me work in my pajamas and, you know, treadmill and all these crazy parking lots, all the crazy places that nobody would think to work. But, you know, I really appreciate all the support and kind words that so many people have shared. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And as now that we close, we're going to wish everybody a happy day and hope that you will search the universe through books. Thank
Okay.
you.